good, clear, thoughtful creativity and art that feels well-resourced, and storytelling and mythology and our interpersonal relationships with one another, these have all been much more of the drivers of any of our decisions than fame.
Hello, and welcome to Art Restart, where we explore how artists are reinventing their fields and building a new landscape for the arts. I'm Piercarlo Talenti, the producer and editor of this podcast, a production of the Thomas S. Keenan Institute for the Arts at the University of North Carolina School of the Arts. In this episode, we'll be speaking with Chloe Smith and Leah Song, the founders and the core of American folk/world music band Rising Appalachia.
Stand like an oak, an aspen, an alder. It's in you, don't falter. And if so, then I got you. Fake it, walk taller. Anything that makes you feel smaller. Leave them by the angels of the water.
You're currently listening to Chloe and Leah's voices in a brand new Rising Appalachia recording titled Stand Like an Oak. Chloe and Leah, who are not only bandmates but sisters as well, made a big announcement in February of 2024. Coming off of a successful year of touring nationally, and over 15 years after they founded Rising Appalachia, they were taking a sabbatical year, though they would honor the concerts already in the books for 2024. Longtime Rising Appalachia fans, and there are many, have been supportive because they know this is a band that has never taken shortcuts when it comes to managing their artistry and their business. Since early on in their careers, Leah and Chloe have been advocates for and practitioners of what they call the slow music movement, an ethos of touring and music making that places sustainability, local engagement, and creative control at the heart of their business. This current sabbatical is merely the latest tool in their slow music toolbox. But still, though last year's tour was very successful and they're about to release a new album titled Folk and Anchor, Chloe and Leah's decision was undeniably gutsy and far from conventional in the music industry, which is why I was really eager to speak with them. Each spoke to me from her respective home in the mountains of North Carolina, not far from Asheville, where they do much of their recording. I started by asking what led up to their decision to take this sabbatical year.
This is Leah chiming in. I'll ring in because Chloe will let you know she's been on a different kind of break over there as a new mother. But as an ensemble, we've been touring for nearly 15 years. Chloe and I started the project real grassroots, and it picked up momentum quite quickly. So we've toured as a duo, as a 3-piece, as a 5-piece, and this last year, when we have had Chloe and the baby with us, upwards of 9 or 10 members, including the crew. And it's been just wonderful, a wonderful, wonderful way to make a living, an incredible way to be in and amongst the people, and also entirely, utterly exhausting in ways that I think are hard to explain unless you've worked on the road. And so, I think the decision came mostly because we've always really believed in the long haul, and we want to be able to make art that feels relevant and that feels important and meaningful to us. And we want to have time to listen to the world around us, the people and the non-people, the plants and the elements and the muses. And the only way to do that really felt like we needed to really pull back a little bit and give ourselves some breathing room to get our houses in order, our metaphorical houses in order, and then to, really lean into our own creativity so that we can do well by this work. I think the music industry, as beautiful as it is in some ways, can be quite extractive. And, we have the good fortune of having a career that continues to ask us out into the world, but learning how and when to say no has been tremendously important and very tricky and vulnerable. And I think we're excited and nervous and everything in between.
Right, because artists are always taught to say yes, 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 and to take whatever work comes their way.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Chloe, could you talk about, so you're a new parent, congratulations.
Thank you.
Could you talk about why, well, I think I know why this break was crucial for you, but you took your child on the road with you this past year.
Yes, I'm a new mother. My son's just turned a year old, out at one of our concerts in Colorado. As any new parent knows, it is quite a lot to juggle work and the transition of becoming a parent, especially for the first year. So my band has been really rad and helpful and easeful in letting me come back on the road slowly and at my own pace. I honestly, before I had a child, was like, I'm going to be one of those touring artists that just straps my baby to my back and goes everywhere. And then, reality is different than what you think before you experience something. So lo and behold, I haven't really felt like strapping him to my back and doing every show. I have felt like doing some shows, and that's just fine. And, the sort of middle road is a little bit more of where I've been at. So I've had a different kind of a year being at home and watching the band tour. We had a really amazing woman fill in for me. And it's kind of almost been like seeing like a different baby of mine out in the world. It's been a very like somatic spiritual thing in a different way of like, oh, look, this project that I made is living out in the world and I'm at home with my other baby. And,
did it feel strange? Because in a way, it was like that baby was off to college already.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like my rowdy teenager is doing fine in the world. And the fans have been so supportive. And, it's been a really beautiful year. And it's been peaceful and restful.
I do want to circle back later about being a parent in the music industry. But now I want to talk about money, which is, of course, touring is crucial to your financial bottom line. How long did you have to prepare to take this year of pause? And also, as you mentioned, you toured with 10 musicians. How did you prepare your band and your support team?
Great question. It was something that we've been thinking about for a little while. And actually, I think we have held the most concern about making sure our team is okay. Rising Appalachia has, as an entity, been very independently funded. Chloe and I have worked very hard to be able to finance a lot of our own recording processes, and we haven't depended a lot, again, on labels or industry finances. So we've been independent in that way. So we knew that we have had a little bit of a foundation that we can still lean into. We are planning on doing a pretty healthy amount of recording this year. So it's a sabbatical from the road, but not necessarily a sabbatical from some of our creative work. And then it's been actually really exciting and inspiring again to see, what will happen with our bandmates as they lean into a little more space and a little more creativity. Our drummer is working on the production of an amazing second-year festival in the land that he was born and raised in Tennessee, called Sanctuary Summit. Our cello and fiddle player is working on the release of a new project that is the early recording years of his work. He's been touring. He's been on the road since he was 14 years old. He's toured more than every one of us. And this is his first album that he's putting out. And our guitar player has the same kind of budding recording projects that no one has really had time to tend to because we've been on the road full time. So you can really kind of keep an eye out. Pico Cassini, Duncan Wickle, and David Brown, all three of the band members, have some really cool stuff in the books. And I think that also, like Chloe said, it sort of feels like leaning back and watching the creative family grow. And that doesn't mean it won't be a lean year. I think it will be a lean year for all of us, but I also think that that's where a lot of ingenuity can come in. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how we all support each other and what kind of things we're able to create from a quieter place.
I'd love to hear more about what you were saying, that you decided early on to be more financially independent than most other music acts. Could you talk more about that? And how did you know early in your career that that's what you wanted?
Yeah, this is Chloe. We were raised by a frugal family. Our grandmother didn't raise us, but she definitely instilled a lot of frugalness into us. And our parents raised us in a very frugal way. And so I think Leah and I entered our artist making early years with that mindset. And when we came across some opportunities in the music industry, we were offered some record labels and different opportunities where people were going to give us a chunk of money in order to record for them and with them, but then we wouldn't own the material. I honestly think it was a matter of upbringing, but also instinct. Like our instinct in those early moments told us maybe, you should own what you're doing. And maybe you should do it on a shoestring budget and learn the ropes. And we certainly had elders and different people, encouraging us along the way. I wouldn't say we had any professional musicians coaching us, but we had enough mentor type people who had built their own artist careers up from the ground, just telling us like that grassroots is an interesting route. It's not the only route, but it's an interesting route. And so I think because of all that, we had a little bit of a distaste in our mouth for just like signing our rights away and signing papers when we didn't really even know what that meant, which I think happens to a lot of younger artists. It can be a bit of a like predator prey thing where you don't really know in your early 20s or however old you are the whole
Whole
rigmarole
picture.
of the music industry. And it's not all bad. There's certainly great parts of it. But I think a lot of artists have learned the hard way that to own the rights to your music is a huge, important factor in making a living and making a name for yourself. So
It's amazing because you worked your ass off
yeah.
We
from the
work
very
our
beginning. And
ass
so
off.
it's kind of amazing that you didn't just immediately, sign the first contract that promised you a chunk of money and
Yeah.
a certain modicum of, of let's say fame or, that's really impressive to me and unusual.
I would add in there too, on top of owning the rights, there was this other piece that was so important to Chloe and I when we started. And that was not even that we owned the rights to the music, because at that point we didn't necessarily even know that we were going to be walking down a long career. But I would say even more importantly, we wanted to be in charge of the creativity. And what we realized is that nothing is given for free. There would be expectations or requests about how we were presenting the music. And we really have, from day one, had our own priorities and concepts and relationship with our art that isn't necessarily the most industry friendly, and or even necessarily the easiest to promote, but we've always
Right,
wanted
because
to do it our
you
way.
certainly cross genres.
We
So
cross
if there were still,
genres.
record stores, it'd be hard to know where to place you,
Yeah.
Yeah.
for instance.
Yep. It's and that's been both a thorn in the side of us building a career, and also a wonderful, wonderful part of our creativity that I don't think we would trade for anything.
Were there ever, because you're obviously so close and know each other more than probably anyone other than your parents, possibly, uh, how did you negotiate when there were disagreements about how you were going to move forward?
We arm wrestle.
Yeah, thumb wrestle.
Yeah.
Ah, all right.
We have not had a lot. I mean, I know that's not like an entirely fair statement, but we have to sit and navigate things. We did go to a couples therapist as
Mhm.
sisters and co-owners of a business. There's been a few things, but
We oftentimes also, we have a very democratic band. So Leah and I make a lot of the decisions, but we oftentimes, if we're at a standstill, we'll ask everyone's input and have sort of majority rule type thing. There's a lot of different ways where like if something's kind of stuck, we'll reach out obviously to the people involved, which are our band members. Or, if it's something deeper or different, we'll ask, someone's advice, like from someone who we love or trust. But mostly, like Leah said, there aren't a ton of disagreements, especially now that Rising Appalachia is rolling and has its personality. In the beginning, when it was formulating, I think there were some harder decisions to make in some ways. And now it's this beautiful 15-legged winged beast that kind of has its personality in the world, and we're doing our best to wrangle it and feed it well, but it has its life, and so in a way the decisions aren't as difficult these days.
And the last thing, I love the way you said that, the 15 winged beast. The last thing I would say is there's no one in our whole camp is driven by fame, not a single part of our team. And I think that's helped us make decisions in a way that feels integral to our faith, might be too weighted of a word, to our ethics in a way, and to our sanity. And so fame was never the driver, and it's never been a driver for any of our kind of long-term goals. Good, clear, thoughtful creativity and art that feels well resourced, and storytelling and mythology and our interpersonal relationships with one another. These have all been much more of the drivers of any of our decisions than fame. And, I think fame is a very serious monster, and it comes with incredible tangles of power and probably myriads of other things. And, it's not really a pat on our back as much as it just is that we've built a really special team, and our agenda is not fame. And if it were fame, I think that there would be some more fighting. There'd be some more disagreements, but it's not. It's like, what will actually steer this in a way that works well for everyone?
Yeah.
Chloe, I want to talk about sustainability as a mother in this industry, in this career. Clearly, it's easier to tour with a young child, but eventually your son will run around and then go to school. So how are you planning for your future with the band with a growing child? How does that work?
Great question. I can't say that I am planning.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the moment. It's just kind of how I am. I can't fully project my 5-year plan. And honestly, Rising Appalachia has never really operated that way. We're very kind of 6-month, year out type people. We obviously are taking the sabbatical year. I am doing my due diligence to talk to other mothers who are touring and who are artists and who are friends of mine and who are on the road. And
so that was my next question. Is there kind of a critical mass of mothers, and are they having an impact on the way the music industry is working?
I hope so. And I would like to see that. I really was hoping even during when the COVID lockdowns that the music industry would reinvent itself. And I know in some ways it did, but it almost seemed like once people could just get back out on the road, everyone just got back out on the road. And so similarly, I think it's okay, well, maybe we'll give you this little break, but then just get back on the road. And I'm putting my ear out now of well, what are other mothers doing? How are people doing it? And I can't say there's some consensus or big movement that I'm seeing yet, but I do think there's an underground, I call it the underground mafia of mothers that just reach out and support each other along the way. It's definitely more grassroots. It's do you need someone to come watch your child at the show? If this is your first time touring, I've toured before, I can give you some tips. Here's some flight tips, things like that have helped me already on my journey. But I would love to see the industry similar to I'm actually seeing the industry work towards mental health initiatives right now, which is awesome. And there's obviously addiction initiatives and different things like that. So I would welcome, and I'm open to seeing that sort of initiative for mothers of okay, well, there's so many women in the industry who are mothers or who want to become mothers, and how can we help pave the path for that to be a successful route? Not everyone is like Rising Appalachia with a sister and I have like a doppelganger fill-in who looks like me. It's like if you're the frontline singer, it's like you can't really just put a fill-in. Like Leah and I are sort of interchangeable in this way where I almost have felt like if there's one of us, it's basically Rising Appalachia. I mean, obviously it should be two of us, but during COVID, Leah was out of the country and I did stuff without her, and it was like one of us needs to be there. But yeah, we'll see. I'm not sure what the next five years will be.
What advice would you have for an up and coming musician who might hear this and really love the idea of the slow music movement, or taking her career as gingerly and with as much care as you have, but is also really anxious about being a newbie in the industry and stepping on people's toes? What would you tell her? Where would she find her allies other than you?
Yeah, Leah and I started our career busking and playing in small sort of salon type things in New Orleans and also different events in Atlanta. And I think what we learned through that, which I know is very different with social media and all the stuff that takes a lot of people's attention now, is like the real time, real world practice years where you can really be honing your craft and making some money and making a name for yourself. But I wouldn't overlook the kind of localized start of what is going on in your town or your city. Could you start something if there isn't something going on, to like hone your skills of singing and performing in front of people, which is really what we're doing. And I know a lot is on
How
that.
long did it take both of you to feel like you really had honed it?
That.
Yes.
It took me forever. This is Chloe, because I had stage fright. And it wasn't natural for me to be a performer. I'm an introverted person and I'm shy. And so, I mean, we were performing in front of pretty large crowds for, I'd say, the first upwards of 5 years. I was pretty uncomfortable, and it was a big learning curve for me to finally get comfortable. And, for a while I was thinking, is this something I should do? Because I felt so uncomfortable on stage, but I also loved it and simultaneously knew that Leah and I had a spark and I could tell that we had something to share. And so I just wanted to push through that. But there were some uncomfortable years, and there's the piece of wisdom and advice. There's going to be some uncomfortable years. And so whether it's because you're not making money or you're uncomfortable on stage or you have to tour and play in venues where only 10 people show up, that's kind of part of it. And so knowing that on the front end and being willing to dive in anyway is
and
a
keep
big
honing your
part.
craft.
Yeah, exactly.
Leah, do you have anything to add to that advice?
My thoughts for young artists, it's always been probably an interesting response, but our almost all of our family, our mother, our father, both of our godparents, and a tremendous amount of our influences and our elders are all amazing musicians and artists, and they all do it as a hobby and as a passion. And I'll speak about our father in particular. There were years where perhaps he would have liked a little bit of commercial success, and commercial success didn't come to him. And I think that there's nothing wrong with that at all. I think it's so equally valuable to have a job in your life that is perhaps how you make your living, and to have your art and your passion be what you pour yourself into on your off time. And that's not the piece that I feel like we're ever told. We're told like either you put everything into it and you focus and you make it, or you don't, or there's no other way to be an artist. And I actually think there's thousands of ways to be an artist, and I think it's equally wonderful for your artistry to be your salvation and your passion, and the thing that you get to do that you don't have to make a living out of. And that might be just as much of a resource to you and your family and your community as being a full-time artist. I think there is a very, very powerful path in finding what works for you. And our work has been Chloe said we don't plan more than 6 months to a year in advance, and that's true. But it's also a choice. We like to be responsive, and it's been very interesting to allow the invitations to come. And that's so different than sort of being a hunter or really saying, I'm going to go for the top. And until I get there, I'm just going to focus on the top. So I really always encourage young artists to find what the path is, how it starts to open itself naturally, and to really pay attention to that, and to totally treasure what that is. If it means that you are running a community folk choir in your neighborhood, or if you're a muralist, or if you hit it big and become a touring author with a best-selling book of poetry, like those are all wonderful. And finding your own footsteps in artistry is, to me, the biggest gift is just the art itself, and figuring out how that gets to be the priority and not the outcome.
If you'd like to learn more about Leah and Chloe and read a longer written version of this interview, please head to uncsa.edu/artrestart. Rising Appalachia does have 6 concerts scheduled in 2024, so if you live in Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina, or California, you might be able to catch them. Our show notes contain a link to their tour schedule. Also, they've just released the first song from their upcoming album, a gorgeous cover of the Bob Dylan song I Shall Be Released. Give it a listen wherever you get your music. If you enjoyed this or any of our episodes, won't you please leave us a rating and or a review on your podcast platform of choice? And of course, don't forget to subscribe. I'll be speaking with some really inspiring artists in episodes coming up. Our theme music is by Shanghai Restoration Project. I'm Piercarlo Talenti, and on behalf of the Thomas S. Keenan Institute for the Arts, thank you for listening.